Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. I have with me today a good friend. He's been on the podcast numerous times, is Dr. Jesse Green. He is a dentist who also has an amazing, or probably one of the world's best dental coaching businesses called Practice Max. So Jesse, how you doing today?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Tyson, and thanks for having me, mate. It's good to be on the show, and mate, I love this show. I listen to it regularly, so it's just great to be here. So thanks for having me.
And you're also the host of the Savvy Dentist podcast. So if anybody wants to listen to a bit of dental, or just how we talk about podiatry, you talk about dental stuff on the dental podcast, and you have different guests that come on there that aren't always dentists as well, the same way that I like to bring on legends who aren't podiatrists.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because one of the things that, when I started Savvy Dentist, the big idea was that oftentimes the good ideas come from outside of dentistry. And so our podcast has been designed to think about, well, what's happening out there in the business world? How
Yeah,
can we make that relevant to, in our case, dentists, your case, podiatrists, and take those lessons, then apply them to our own clinical practice and how we operate our business.
yeah. So, and I think it's great to learn, well, what you can learn outside of your own industry. I think if you only learn from your own industry, it's very boring.
It is really boring, and everyone starts talking about the same stuff, drinking the same Kool-Aid, and there's kind of like there's no new ideas. It's just this stagnation that occurs. And so I always find that if I go somewhere and I look at what another profession does, or a hotel, or something like that, I go, wow, that's a great idea. I wonder how that could work in our practice. And I'm sure it must be the same in podiatry. I'm sure it is.
Oh, it wouldn't matter where I go. If I was, when I used to get a haircut, which I don't do too often anymore, just do it myself. But some of my best ideas that I used in my podiatry business that patients would actually comment on came from the craziest places: butcher shops, hairdressing salons. Just you'd watch them do something, you go, "Oh, that's interesting. I wonder how I could use that in podiatry."
Yep.
You sit down, you talk about it with your team. They go, "Oh, what about if we did this, this, and this?" You go, "Oh, let's see what happens." And you do it, and then you get feedback from patients. Go, "Man, that was a good idea," because patients notice things that change in your business.
100% they do. And they're often going to give you, especially those long-term loyal patients that have been with you for a while, and you've got that relationship with, they can say, I really like the way you've changed that. That's really good. And, or, I notice you've done this differently. And it's really nice because you do get that feedback, and it's really gratifying. So yeah,
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
So it's even like simple things as uniforms. If you have the same uniform constantly all the time, all of a sudden they don't recognize. But if you change your uniform, you update it because you may have seen somebody else's uniform, you go, "Oh, that would be really nice to have in our business."
Mm.
Patients notice change really easily.
100%. Our first uniform for our practice was inspired by the Virgin cabin crew uniform back in the day,
Okay.
in the early days of Virgin.
So how did you
And
go putting on a skirt? But did you find the heels difficult to wear, or you sort of you took
No,
to them
no,
pretty
no,
easily?
no, no. I was pretty used to them actually. So no, it wasn't a problem. It was a minor adjustment. You rat bag. No, but the stockings were a pain,
Oh
man.
yeah, the shoes were easy, but the stockings, yeah, I'll never get used to those.
Anyway,
So the reason I got you on here, and it's funny that you mentioned at the beginning about what you can learn from other places.
hmm,
And you recently did a trip a month or so ago you took about 20 dentists
yep,
over to the United States, and you went and visited Zappos,
yes,
the fish markets
and Seattle, yeah,
in Seattle, and also you went to Disney Institute. So I want to talk about those three completely different companies, your reason for taking everybody there. Yeah, what it was about those companies that you wanted to go and visit, and then also what your biggest takeaways were from those three places. I'd love to go and do it myself.
yeah. Well, firstly, it was a great experience, and the big idea behind it was again that not invented here concept is what can we learn from other industries that do things really, really well, and how can we take those lessons and apply them back to our own practices? And there was a couple of key themes. So we went to Disney first, and then we went to Seattle, and then we finished in Las Vegas at Zappos. So I guess I'll kind of start in that order.
Yeah,
So one of the things that's really interesting about Disney now, there's lots of things that are interesting about Disney, of course, but one of the things I've always been fascinated by is the fact that I don't know if you know this, but Disney makes more money in its park than the entire city of Las Vegas. Now, when you think about that, that's pretty
wow,
incredible
yeah,
because Las Vegas has gambling, prostitution and all those other things. And Disney is kind of wholesome, clean fun. So, I wanted to look at their pricing strategy. I wanted to look at how they can justify the prices. I wanted to look at what they do up front. So you see the show, but I wanted to look behind the curtain and kind of see what's happening. And so the way the Disney visit went is we had a day to go and explore the park. You've been to Disneyland, I think.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, it's great. And so we went and explored the park. Now, I'd never been before, so I was on a bit of a learning curve about magic passes and express lanes and and all the rest of it. But it was great. And so you'd kind of go through various things and experience that. And you can see that it's really obvious why they call their staff members cast, because there is a performance going on. There is a show that they're giving, and all those team members are on show. So I think, that was something that was really interesting, the understanding the performance element of what they're doing. And so I noticed that, when I go into the dental practice, we're on show. We put on a happy face. You might get to work. You might have had a rough drive in. Maybe someone on the traffic was a bit rude to you, or whatever it is, right? But you've got to get into performance mode. But it was really about understanding the elements of the performance and playing the role, not just kind of walking through the door and going, oh, yeah, I'm in a bad mood or whatever, or I'm in a bad mood and I'm putting aside.
But such a good point, though, because when you're saying they're cast members, and they are putting on performance, whether they're wearing the Mickey Mouse costume or they're serving you a hot dog, the hot dog person is pretending to be a hot dog person.
Yeah.
Whereas even if they had a bad drive in, it's got nothing. Once they get to work, they're performing as a hot dog person.
Yeah, and so I think that's a really important point. Is embracing the role, own the role. If you're a podiatrist and a professional, step into that.
So, like at some doctor surgeries, they take on the role. The receptionist there is, receptionist weaned on vinegar, and that's their role. That's no matter what happens, they could have a great morning. They're still going to put on. They play the evil stepmother.
They do. It's like, do you remember Little Britain? Computer says no. Do you remember that skit?
No, not off the top of my head, but I remember Little Britain.
Oh, yeah, Little Britain's great. And I loved that skit when, computer says no. And I think medical centers are a bit like that too. So that was the first thing that came out of Disney. But we went there to talk about leadership. We wanted to talk about how they develop leaders. And so they spoke a lot about how Disney does it. They spoke a lot about the power of storytelling. Now, we talk about storytelling in the context of Disney. We think of all the movies and the cinema pieces that they do, and of course, that's true. But storytelling weaves through every element of their business. And storytelling is what creates the culture of the team. Storytelling is how they teach their team members how to do their role. And so this huge theme of storytelling emerged from Disney. And what's really interesting is how that theme carried through to the other places we visited as well. And so we're talking about how to construct stories, how to tell stories, what types of stories, your origin stories, case study stories for podiatrists or dentists and all those sorts of things. So rather than dazzling patients with facts and figures and qualifications, engage with stories. It was the big message there. Engage your team with stories. And so that was really important.
It's one of those things when if a patient has a particular problem and you can relay the story of other patients with similar problems, similar occupations, similar backgrounds, and take them through the journey that they went through and what you did for them, and then the end result, what happened in the end.
The hero's journey, right?
The hero's journey, like they come out the other end and everything is just fantastic. They can put themselves in that story. And they're more chance of them following your advice. They go, I can relate to that. Whereas if you say to them, do you know that 87% of patients that get orthotics put in their shoes have a 73% improvement in the first 7 days? They don't care.
No. They probably want to hear something like, Tyson, looking at your, I know nothing about feet, but anyway, looking at your feet, it reminds me of a bloke I saw a couple of weeks ago. His name's Bob. He'd had this particular problem with here, and here. And he was really struggling to do this, and this, and this. And we spoke about, orthotics, and he was a bit doubtful about whether they'd solve his problem. But we gave it a crack. And, by the end of it, he was running around after his grandkids and having a great time. I don't know what the story would be, but, that story is far more engaging than stats and numbers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I agree.
So I think stories for selling, like they talk about story selling rather than storytelling. So storytelling, story selling, culture, getting to know each other's origin stories, what brought them to the business is, again, really important. And the All Blacks are actually really good at this. And, we're recording this roughly not long after Australia's been eliminated from the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, they had a great World Cup, wasn't it?
Oh,
Probably their worst result ever.
I think it has been, yeah. Which is really disappointing. Like, being a rugby fan in Australia, like, you've got to be a devotee, don't you? I mean, you've got to have a thick skin.
Yeah, it hasn't gone ahead in leaps and bounds.
No, but what's interesting is the All Blacks and their winning culture is based on stories. And so there's a terrific book called Legacy by James Kerr, which talks about their team culture and how to build it. So, the whole thing around Disney was stories and storytelling. So that was really fascinating.
So Disney is one of those places, though, that I think so much emphasis goes onto their employment. Who they make part of their team is so important. They don't all of a sudden go, oh, we need someone to be selling hot dogs. Just go and drag someone off the street. Can you sell a hot dog? Yeah, and throw them in there. They really make sure the person suits the role of what they're going to be doing. And they are all part of that team. They are all cast members of a grand show that's been put on for everyone.
Yeah, and if you're an introvert, working at Disney would probably not be the right role for you, because if you're an introvert that hates kids, Disney is not the place, right? And so when they do occasionally have a mishire, they talk about upgrading that person to guest.
All right, okay.
Isn't that a nice way of saying it? We're going to upgrade you to guest.
Yeah, you're not fired. You're just now a guest.
Yes.
You can come back anytime you want.
Yep, as a guest.
As a guest, just on that side of the hot dog.
Yeah.
Not on this side of the hot dog.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I went there, and I just loved the place. I'd heard it was the happiest place on earth. There was another podiatrist that I know, Andrew Snyder, who just raves about the place. He's madly in love with Disney, everything Disney. And I tell you, when I went there, it was just absolutely fantastic.
What's also really interesting is the pricing models. It is a premium pricing experience. You're not going to leave with much change. Would you agree?
Yeah, I can't recall. I didn't feel it was overpriced. See, we had a 5-day pass, and somebody said 5 days. You're really going to need 5 days? And I went, I just heard that if you really want to enjoy it, block out the time and get a 5-day pass, and that's what we did. And I think we had a break in between the 5 days, so you had the week to use. I can't remember exactly. And right up until the 5th day, it was like midnight that we were leaving on the last day. We're just enjoying it too much.
I think with Disney, and again, I've only been once, so I would go back. I think there's so much to do and see, and it's a bit of a sensory overload because there's so much to do and see that, doing it in a day, we're not going to just do it all in a day. And if you could, you'd probably be there from dawn till dusk and beyond. But
yeah, I know.
Yeah, and running at 100 miles an hour. But I think what I enjoyed seeing is I didn't feel ripped off at all, but the pricing I did notice as being at the upper end, but I didn't care, if that makes sense. So it was like, so the question is, how do I get our patients, or how do I get our clients to pay more money willingly for that, right? It's not a matter of, over servicing, or it's not a matter of.
Well, what was one of the prices that sort of made you go, wow, that's at the higher end? Have you got an example of a price for something that surprised you?
It was probably just the merchandise in the shops. And I guess, at the end of every ride, you're going to walk through a merchandise store of some sort, right? Yeah, and so that's the other thing, is giving people plenty of opportunities to buy. Where are the opportunities in your practice to buy other things? I don't know what orthotics might sell at point of sale. Maybe it's strapping tape, or maybe it's, I don't know if you've got bits and pieces and products that you sell. But in dentistry, it's, toothbrushes, toothpaste, So where are the opportunities to sell? Where are you taking people through?
I will admit, when I'm at a dental clinic, the only place I ever see floss and toothpaste and the toothbrushes is behind the reception counter. I never see them in the actual dental rooms.
Maybe they should be in the rooms.
And if they're in the dental rooms, and if the dentist said to me, hey, Tyson, this is the floss that you should be using,
you'd
I
buy it.
wouldn't even question it. I'd go, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd buy it
And
each time.
yeah, and you're not going to kind of make a fortune on those consumables necessarily, but you're providing a service to your patient because now Tyson doesn't need to go and try and find this floss at wherever. You're going to make a bit of margin on it for sure. But again, it's a little thing that keeps Tyson coming back to the practice because he knows this is where he gets his floss and his toothbrush, and off he goes. And I'm sure it's the same in podiatry. There's
Yeah,
got to be
it is. I used to do that with the strapping tape and a number of other things. But I remember a story, a guy, Brad Sugars was telling a story of
Yep.
a client or someone he knew that had a pharmacy, a really big pharmacy.
Yep.
And they were talking about liquid medicine. And he said, whenever someone's buying liquid medicine, do you offer them a measuring cup? And they went, no, I never thought most people have got one. He said, why don't you just, every person that buys liquid medicine, ask them if they want a measuring cup. At the end of the year, they made $70,000 from measuring cups.
Wowzers.
Just by asking that one question, do you have a measuring cup? That's why I'd say to my patients, do you have strapping tape at home? If you don't, you can buy it at the pharmacy or you can buy it from me at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
I go, what do you want to do? Do you want 1 or 2 rolls? And usually they buy 2 rolls because 1 roll is never enough. And I sold hundreds and hundreds of rolls of strapping tape every year.
Yeah, every year. And so, I mean, I don't know what a roll of strapping tape's worth, but still, it's just good money to come through the till, right? You're not going to knock it back. So I think providing people opportunities to buy was one thing that came out of Disney. But the premium pricing, I think, did you ever have one of those turkey legs there?
Yes.
I remember thinking, firstly, that is the biggest turkey leg I've ever seen. It looks like a leg of pork.
Yeah. Oh, no, they're pretty big.
This is like, what do you, like your turkeys like emus or something? But I remember
Small
thinking,
horses. That's
it's like, holy moly.
It's a pony.
Yeah. But I can't remember the price now, but I remember thinking, oh yeah, that's not an inexpensive thing. It wasn't, outrageous, but I remember going like, do I really kind of need to spend that much? Oh, yes, bugger it. Not if I did. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's that's part of the tradition when you go to Disney is you have to have a turkey leg
Yeah.
because you see everybody walking around with these turkey legs.
I know, but I couldn't eat it. That's the problem. I was just like, oh God, I'm going to turn into a turkey at this rate.
I only ate about half of mine, and I think that's the whole idea. You're not supposed to eat the whole thing. It's just the idea of having it.
Gave it a red hot go. Don't get me wrong, mate. As you can tell by my waist. I went over as a passenger and I came back on cargo, mate.
Had to buy an extra seat. Could I take the middle seat as well?
Yeah.
So what else did you take away from Disney before we move on to fish markets?
I think that was the big one, was storytelling, premium pricing, opportunities to buy. They were the 3 big lessons. Actually, one other thing was Walt used to, 2 other things. Walt used to do a leadership walk. He'd take people for a walk around the park. And so he'd just spend time with the key people in his business. And he'd typically have that conversation while they were walking around. And so going for a walk rather than sitting across the desk was his style of leadership. And I thought that was really interesting. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting is for every Walt, you need a Roy Disney. You need that person who can take the ideas and make them concrete and be financially prudent and sensible, because Walt had been bankrupt prior to the big success, but the difference was Roy. So I think every Walt needs a Roy.
Yep, that's they say behind every successful man is a successful mother-in-law.
Yeah.
I remember reading that somewhere. But anyway, so you went from California, then you went up to Seattle. And the fish markets. Is it actually called the fish markets?
No. So I was misinformed and totally surprised when I got there. Have you read the fish philosophy books and come across those?
Yeah. I met the guy here in Cairns.
Okay. So that was the market we went to, the Pike Place Fish Market. Now, what I didn't realize is Pike Place is a bit of a destination in itself in Seattle. It's down on the wharves, as you'd expect, having fish markets there. Beautiful views over the city. And I don't know, I think it was after the Depression or after the war, it was slated for demolition. And then a whole bunch of locals, rallied and saved it and resurrected it. But there's this little stall in there, the fish market, the Pike Place Fish Market, the fish philosophy that has become so famous. and it's really small. It's
All right.
really
Were you expecting it to
small.
be huge?
I was expecting like the whole market to be the fish market, but it was a stall about as big as a 2-bedroom unit, not even.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's small.
So
But
when you went there, though, were you going there to actually meet the head honcho and be toured around, or was it just a place what was the purpose of going there? What made you want to go to the Pike Fish Markets?
so, well, because I'd read so much about the fish philosophy for years, choose your attitude, make their day, have fun, all those sort of stuff, be present. They're kind of 4 tenets of the fish philosophy. And I'd read the books, watched the videos, done all that sort of stuff. I thought, well, the culture here is fantastic. Their employees stay forever, 15, 16, 20 years kind of stuff. And so they're obviously doing something right. And so when we went there, we went on a tour through the fish markets. And so we went on a bit of a foodie tour. And one of the stops was the market. So we stopped at the markets. They told us about their culture. They told us about their products and their fish. And we got to observe them in action. Where you remember the throwing of the fish and all the rest of it?
Yeah.
So, our guys got to, throw and catch fish and all that sort of stuff. And a few of them got covered in fish slime. Yeah. Good in the moment, stinky throughout the day. But anyway, so we got to watch them do that. And for the listeners, if you're not familiar with the fish philosophy, they'll sometimes throw fish around, and if you catch the fish, you can keep it, basically. And then we watched them being playful. They had this, oh gosh, I can't remember the type of fish it was. It was a giant fish. That was actually plastic. It looked as real as can be. It's made by a prop company.
Yeah.
And it's buried under the ice with the other fish, and its face is sticking through. It's an ugly thing. It's but ugly. But on the other end of that, it's on the operator side, it's attached to a chain. So as people walk past, they pull the chain so the fish moves and gives everyone a bit of a fright. And so they're having a bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
But so the fish philosophy, what was interesting was incredible in-depth product knowledge and innovation around products. So, for example, we had salmon jerky.
Oh, okay.
It sounds
terrible. Yeah.
It sounds terrible, but it's really good.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds awful.
It does. I was going, oh, I'm not sure about this, but it was really good. It was terrific. And so they're innovating their products. They're looking at how they can, take salmon and beef jerky and come up with, a combination. How do you combine two things? So there was the product innovation type of thing that came out of that. There was obviously the fish philosophy and the culture piece that came out of that.
So did you have to call ahead to let them know you were coming with a big group of people, or it's just you can just turn up there?
We went as part of a foodie tour, and so
that's right. Yeah, no, you mentioned that.
Organized it.
Yeah.
So what that meant is we went down. It's called Ghost Alley under the markets, and believe it or not, they've got this alley that is covered in chewing gum. It's gross, but really pretty, if I can say that.
No, that makes sense.
Don't lean against the wall, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But apparently years ago, they had a guy that was going to the theater down there, and he had to go, and so he took his chewy out and stuck it on the wall, and other people followed suit. And there's now this like Technicolor wall of different colored chewing gum, like unbelievable. And every couple of years, they have to get the water pressure cleaners to come and hose it off and all the rest of it, and then it just gets redone. So that was
cool.
So
they actually cleaned it all down, and then it starts again.
Yeah. So it's weird. So anyway, what came out of that though? So again, the storytelling theme came out of this as well. So as we were going through the markets, there's all these different stalls beyond the fish market, and each of them had a story. Each of them had a story about themselves, their origin, their product they were selling, and then they'd also have stories to tell about other vendors we should go and visit if we're interested in something else. So the power of the fish market is the fact that it's a community.
Yeah.
And so in the early days, you had all these kids that were raised in kind of fruit packing crates under the counters. And so one of the first things they did is that it became a commune, basically. I think kind of like not like a commune as in a hippie commune, but like a cooperative is a better word, I think. And so they built childcare for the kids. Then they built social housing for the people that couldn't afford housing. And then, you had to apply to become a member of the markets there, and you couldn't compete in certain ways, and you couldn't step on toes. So everyone had the opportunity to flourish. And it's become this collective hub of busyness and activity. the original Starbucks coffee shop is from Pike Place in Seattle.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, they can't sell some of the things they would sell in other locations because they'd be encroaching on other vendors trading in the market. And so the community piece there was unbelievable. So again, what's the takeaway for podiatrists and dentists is, being part of a community, creating community, connection, storytelling, all of those things came up again.
Do you think America does this better than Australia? Or does it better than most places?
Do you want a one word or a long answer?
Give me a long answer.
Okay, I'll give you the short answer first. Yes.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking exactly the same thing because there's so many companies in America that I could tell you the story, the history of the companies, and it could be, like you go to San Francisco to have your seafood chowder, and there's a certain shop there, and everyone knows what that shop is, and there's just so many places in America where they really get behind people that have done something a little bit unique and have got a story to tell because we love stories.
So if I think I'm laboring stories, it's because I am.
What was your long answer?
The long answer is probably not much longer than the short answer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was trying to think about why. And I think one of the things the American culture celebrates more than the Australian culture is achievement.
Yeah.
I think in Australia, we have this horrible disease called tall poppy syndrome. And I think Americans kind of cheer on those that succeed and do well. And as you say, get behind them. So I think there's a cultural element of embracing success. And I really find that attractive. There's an energy and a dynamism. And to quote The Castle, the vibe.
Yeah. I saw a video the other day, and it was a guy had posted this video, and he was showing all this footage of when he first opened up this gym.
Yeah.
He said, when I first opened up my gym, I was young. I had no idea what I was doing, but I got a few clients, and all the clients were really encouraging me to come on, get in there. And they were referring their friends and really helping me build it up. He says, and then all of a sudden my gym started to get really successful. And it was fantastic. I made it bigger, and everyone's going, this is fantastic. You're doing great. He said, then I bought this really nice Mercedes Benz. He said, and everyone's going, oh, what are you trying to show off? The money that you're making. He said, and all of a sudden the people that were cheering me started trying to tear me down.
Oh, wow. Is this in America or in Australia?
I was in Australia.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah. And he's going, I don't, and it's not that his business was falling apart, but he's just saying, I was surprised that the people that were lifting me up were the same people that once I got to a certain point started tearing me down. I'm not sure, I can't remember what the exact point was that he was trying to make, but it was more just along the lines of I think think about how you react to other people's success.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And that's why I think, when you go through, a business training program, that community piece is really important to support people. And I know that's one of the beauties of your whole reboot program that you do. The genius element of that is the content is fantastic, of course, and it elevates the practices 2 times, 3 times, 4 times from where they were at the starting point. But what I've noticed when I've seen the social media is everyone kind of supporting one another. And I think that energy is contagious. So I think that's the genius of that program.
Oh, the reboot is, I was talking to someone the other day, and they asked me about how the reboot came about. And I said, I sort of started when COVID came about and people were losing touch, and a lot of people's businesses were being affected. And I thought, I've got some ideas that I think can help everyone. And that's how it started. Said, then over the 3 years, it just kept evolving and getting better. And then now I'm doing the live one, and it's going to be the Ducks Nuts. It is going to be fantastic doing it live over 2 days. But it constantly keeps changing. And it's one of those things that I try to encourage people. If you did it before and you're in Australia, take the 2 days off and do it again, because it's always changing.
And do it with friends, right? Because that's the thing is, lift one another up. A rising tide lifts all boats. And one of the things I think that as healthcare professionals, we've got to stop seeing our colleagues as competitors and seeing our colleagues as supporters. And, I think, in my dental practice, if my neighbor has success, that's great. I'll cheer him on. And then maybe I can just, if someone's willing to set the pace, I'm willing to follow, right? But if I'm setting the pace, I'm hoping other people come and overtake me so I can be better too. So I think I think that's just a really good attitude to bring. Americans do it intuitively. I think
Yeah, they do.
Australians, we've got to create it. And I think that's why I like what the Podiatry Reboot does. It's fantastic.
So, well, there's my plug for the reboot. So if anyone's anyone's sitting on the fence at the moment, there could be some seats left. I'm not sure because we're doing this recording a little bit just before the actual reboot starts. So go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, click on events, all the details are there. And if you miss out, oh well.
No, don't miss out. Don't miss
You
out.
don't miss out. No.
Don't miss out. Get in it.
Get in there and do it. It's going to be great. What's really fun is there are some people who have done the reboot before who are coming back, and some other people that I already know who's going to be in the room. The dynamics of who are going to be there, I know they're all going to bounce so many ideas off of each other.
Yeah,
it's going to be great.
When we run, one of my clients said to me, and it was really lovely and really humbling at the same time. Yeah, Jesse, when we come to events, yeah, your content's great, but frankly, what we get a lot out of is the conversations in the breaks. And and you go, oh, okay, that's good. Put smart people in a room together. Who knew? What a good idea.
But that's always the way. I've gone to so many podiatry events and just other business events, podcasting events, and it's the conversations you have around the bar when your guard's a little bit down, you're having a beer, and everyone's just relaxed and enjoying themselves, that you're sharing ideas across the table. And that's why everyone needs to have a brain book, because you need to be writing these ideas down somewhere so they're all in one place. You're not looking for scraps of paper afterwards.
Yep, 100%.
Okay, so the book Fish that you were talking about what was the title of the book?
The Fish Philosophy.
Oh, Fish Philosophy. No, the guy who came to Australia.
I think actually maybe the book was just called Fish.
Okay, was it by Stephen London?
Yeah, yes, that's the one.
Okay, that's the guy I met. I met him in Cairns. Yeah,
you're famous, mate.
He was here. The book had just come out. Yeah. He'd only just written the book, and so he came to Cairns to try and promote it. And I bumped into him, and then there was a breakfast on, and had a good old time. It was fun.
Yeah, I reckon. Look, for anyone listening, it's a simple book. It's a small book. It's an easy read. You'll read it in a night. It's not a hard read, but it's a very powerful read. And I think if you can take the concepts from the fish philosophy and embrace it, I think your practice will really, really grow.
I do have the book because I know I got a copy off him, and I've got a signed copy.
Oh, now you just boasted, man.
I tell you, this is when you know you've been around for a long time, because I remember Robert Kiyosaki's book came out for the first time, and then he put on a small workshop for about 20 people here in Cairns that I went to, and this is way before we all had cameras
and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, but it's way before we all had our phones and took photos and uploaded them to social media. So I have no photos or proof of these people. But I was at an event 7 years ago, Business Black Ops, that I go to all the time. And Robert Kiyosaki's PR manager was sitting with me for the 3 days. And we were just talking about when he was in Cairns and when he threw somebody out of the room, and he goes, yeah, he's a bit like that sometimes.
Well, but I remember you telling me that story, and he had reason to do it, and that's okay.
And he warned everyone. He said, if you do this, this is the consequence. I will throw you out of the room. The person did it, and he stuck to his word and threw him out of the room. Didn't give him a second chance. And I went, impressive.
Yep, there you go.
So, okay, so you moved over. You went from Disney to Pike Fish Markets, and then made your way down to Vegas.
And we went to Zappos. Now, you know Zappos, right?
Footwear and clothing.
Yeah, so Zappos is a business that I first became really interested in when a mate of mine's late mother said, hey, there's this company I've heard about. I think you might be interested in learning about them. So for those that don't know Zappos, it's the world's largest online retailer of shoes, but they do sell other things as well. In 2008, they were acquired by Amazon for megabucks, a couple of billion or $1 billion or something. But this real story kind of predates that. So Tony Hsieh, who passed away not so long ago, unfortunately, he was not the founder, but was an early investor. And he'd sold his first business to Microsoft. It's called Link Exchange. I think it sold for a couple $100 million, lots of money. I know. Yeah, underachiever.
Yeah.
Anyway, he sold his business for a boatload. And anyway, he as they were growing, they were hiring basically anyone with the pulse because they were growing so quickly. And what ended up happening is they lost control of their company culture. And it became so unpleasant for him to go to work that he left before his earnout, which meant he surrendered a significant amount of money that was otherwise payable. And so when he went in as an investor into Zappos and ultimately invested more and more and more and more, and he became the CEO, their culture became central to who they are. And so, we all hear about core values, and Zappos has 10 core values, and they live those core values. So if you read a book, again, this is not like Tyson and Jesse's book club.
Yeah.
There's a great book called Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh, and you spell Hsieh Hseih. So it's not Shay or anything like that, but Tony Hsieh, Delivering Happiness. And he tells the story there. But what ended up happening is they developed these core values, and they became central to everything that they do. And what that meant is they hired by them, they fired by them, they did everything. And what's interesting is Zappos describes themselves as a customer service company that happens to sell shoes. And I think that's a really powerful paradigm. So everything that they do is designed to deliver an amazing experience for their customers. So that means when they recruit people, they're testing their values. When they onboard people, so let me tell you, when they interview people, they are checking for competency for the role, but they're checking for culture fit. And culture fit trumps competency every single time.
Oh, definitely.
And so what that means is within the organization, the guy that took us through Rio, he started off as a barista, now is kind of leading the tour groups and all the rest of it. And so there's lots of movement within the company. That's probably not as easy to do in a dental practice or a podiatry practice, but still the culture fit is important.
Yeah, because I was going to say that, like, sometimes even when you're looking at Disney or the Pike Fish Markets, Zappos, a lot of the people that are sort of going to those places, like say Disney,
Yeah.
if you're a really just grumpy, miserable ass person, you're probably not going to want to go to the happiest place on earth.
No.
So their culture repels those people. And I think some people might listen to this and go, oh, but in my podiatry business, I can't control who walks through the front door. I'm thinking, yes, you can. Because if you're really positive, upbeat, happy, charging the right fees, and your website and everything and your team reflect who you are, that grumpy ass person will go to your website and go, oh, no, that's not for me. They look like they charge too much.
100%. There's a lot of good work on this by Robert Cialdini in his, I don't know if it's his latest book, but it's called Persuasion, not Persuasion.
Yeah.
And he talks about repelling people before they get to the door and all that as well. I think you're absolutely spot on, mate. So yeah,
and that's what I'm taking away from what you're saying, because I know some people might listen to it and go, oh yeah, but yeah, how does it apply to podiatry? Because we can't control who comes in, but our marketing says a lot about who we are. Our culture says a lot about who we are. Our furnishing. Someone drives past your business and they look through that front door. There'll be certain people that, like, I know there's some clinics here in Cairns that I wouldn't take my dog in there to get their nails clipped because it doesn't look hygienic enough for my dog. But there'll be certain patients that'll see it and go, looks good enough for me. And they would look at one of my old businesses and go, oh, I'm not going in there, too expensive. Looks like they're a bit flash. They could be up themselves.
Yeah, could be all of that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting though is because Zappos see themselves as a customer service business, when you're onboarded at Zappos, the first thing you do is you spend 2 weeks in the customer service department. Everyone, whether you're the CEO or the janitor, does customer service training.
Yeah, we used to have our podiatrists spend, when they were doing the initial training, spend a certain amount of time at the reception counter. Learning what the receptionist does. A couple of reasons. One, you appreciate how hard they work.
Yeah, it's one of the toughest roles. It's probably the toughest role in the whole practice.
Yeah,
right?
you get to see the crap that they have to put up with every day. So when you come out there trying to chew them a new one, which you shouldn't be, but if you are going to say something to them, realize what they've been going through all day sitting out there. Plus, sometimes they are that busy. It's nice if you can dive in, give them a hand and take the load off if you're in between patients and you can, or there might be a time you have to just dive in and do something. So that was an important part when we did our training as well.
Yeah, and what Zappos are also known for is at the end of their initial training period, they offer people money to leave. They'll basically say, hey, you've now been through our initial training. We only want to have people here that want to be here and feel like they're going to be a great fit. And so we realize you've spent some time with us. Obviously, they've been paid for that initial training.
Yeah.
But we also recognize that this may not be the right fit for you because we are fairly unique in our culture. We're fairly unique in what we do. And so we want you to be able to go and find a great place that is the right fit for you. And if Zappos is not it, go with our blessing and with a couple of grand, basically. And off they go. And, one or two people take it because they don't get their recruitment right all the time, but a lot of people stay. So it's quite a unique way of doing things. But what was really interesting to me, Tyson, is the core values in the culture. When we walked around the campus, right, and every single person knew the core values, every single person exhibited the core values, every single person was just happy, warm, welcoming, and you could feel it. And so to read about it was one thing, to experience it was totally different. But again, storytelling came out.
Yeah, so it reminds me when I was in Arizona last year and we went to this coffee shop called Dutch Bros. And we drove in there, just looked like your normal drive-in coffee place.
Yeah.
Nothing unusual about it, except the young girl who greeted us, she just said, "Hello, friends." And I just went, "What?" She went, "Hello, friends. What can I get you for today?" And she was so nice that when Dave Freeze and I drove off, I said to Dave, if I had a business here, I'd be trying to recruit her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said her personality and just how she greeted us was just amazing. But then when I finished there, I went and jumped online that night and looked up Dutch Bros coffee place, and you read their website and you read everything about them, and that is their culture.
It's not by accident, right?
No, it's not because she just happened to have that bubbly personality. That's what they're looking for when they employ someone, because it makes someone like me want to go back there and get another coffee.
100%. And it's like you contrast that to the medical receptionist weaned on vinegar that we spoke about before, right? It's light and day. It's just two totally polar opposite things. And so I think that it doesn't take much more time and effort to be nice. But if it's not part of the culture, if it's not systematic, and if it's not done with intent, that was another big word that came out of Disney, was intentionality. If it's not done with intent, then it just kind of becomes happenstance. It's a bit random. It's a bit intermittent, and it can't be relied upon. So I think,
I think some businesses panic. Yeah, like they open up a business, and I was talking about this recently with another guest. But they'll open up a business and don't really know what they're doing. They just think, I was an employee, I want to work for myself, because I think that's the next progression.
Yes.
They open up their own business. They don't know how to employ a receptionist. They don't really know how to employ anybody. So they keep employing the wrong people, but then the business gets busier. Yeah. And they keep employing more people and the business gets busier, and then people leave. So they're desperate to fill that space. Whereas, and this is something you've always said to me, is sometimes you got to slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
Step back, go back a gear before you put it into the next gear, because sometimes stepping back and just going, okay, let's assess where we are. What do we want to really change? When we employ the next person, let's employ right, not just employ anybody. And if we can't employ the right person, then we just need to stay where we are at the moment until we find the right person, and then sort of build it up.
Yeah. I think that's really, really important, that slow down to speed up. And it's easy to say, it's much harder to do.
Oh, definitely.
Because I think, all of us in practice, look at that slowing down and go, well, there's lost revenue, there's lost opportunity, particularly if you're the principal of the practice and you're generating all the income. You go, well, I don't have time to do that because I've got to pay the bills and this, and this. But I promise you, if you can invest that little bit of time and take that little bit of time away from the chair or away from the patient, then it'll come back to you 100 times over, because you'll be positioning yourself as an employer of choice. You'll be positioning yourself as the place that patients want to come to. You'll have more, obviously you'll make more money, you'll have more free time, but you'll have more fun and enjoyment and fulfillment as a result. And rather than your business owning you, you get to own it.
Well, it's usually like that, and that's why every year when I go to Business Black Ops in October, it was the reason that I do it is that's my slow down time. That's me taking a step back. Yeah, slowing down before I speed up. I don't do anything with any clients. I don't do any coaching. It just for about 3 weeks, it's all about me. I'm just taking a step back. I don't earn any income over that period of time, but I know when I come out of that 3 weeks, it's just boom, everything takes off again afterwards.
Yeah, and you'll do way better because you've had that 3 weeks to do that.
Yeah.
and you'll accelerate.
So a couple more questions just before we wrap up. One,
Yep.
why did you take a group of people over there and you didn't just go yourself?
It's a great question. I could easily have just gone and done it myself, but our whole philosophy is around community. Community is our number one core value. And so I kind of felt that if I wanted to live my values, I should take a group of people with us.
Yep.
And it was great. They had a great time. I had a great time. There was collective learning. And the other thing too is you learn more than just your own insights. When other people reflect back what they learned, they go, oh, that's a fantastic insight. I hadn't even thought of it from that perspective, or I hadn't considered that, which is why I kind of like that whole group environment that we spoke about earlier. When you're getting people in a room, is you can learn from other people's insights. You can learn from other people's perspective. And do you know what? We just had a lot of fun together. We had a great time. There was a lot of serious learning, of course, but there was just also a lot of relaxing, incidental conversations, sitting in the pool, having a quiet drink or two, and just talking. It was terrific. It was good fun.
Yeah, that is. It's like some events that I go to. If I know there's going to be other people there, we will usually organise to, not only do you catch up after the end of the day, but usually I get up quite early in the morning and I normally grab the other person and go, hey, let's go for a walk. You and I have done it down at the Gold Coast.
Yep.
I've done it with Tom Foster and some other people. And Tom's been on the podcast that when we're in Arizona, we get up before everybody else. We go for an hour walk, come back to the motel, then catch up with everybody else to have breakfast. So it's, those conversations. It's great when you're with other people.
Yeah, it's good fun.
So would you do it again?
Yeah.
Oh, you would?
Logistically, yes.
Can I come next time?
Yeah. Organising it.
Is it pain? I reckon it would have been difficult.
Very, very logistically challenging.
Yeah.
So that's probably the only downside. Would we do it again? Yeah. Yes, but it's like it's still a bit too soon to think about it.
Yeah, I remember when you first got back and I said, oh, how was it? You were raving about how good it was, which is why I wanted to actually talk about it.
Yeah.
But at the time I said, oh, would you do it again? And you were like, it was logistically harder than you thought it was going to be.
Yes. So we had a touring group of 26 people.
Yeah.
Checking 26 people in at an airport. Trying to
Is it one of those things, would you do anything differently? Yeah, because a lot of the times you'll do something like that. If you got the opportunity to do it again, would you do it differently?
Yeah, probably. I think probably 2 stops rather than 3 stops. That was ambitious.
Yeah. What about if you said, well, we're going to be at Disney Institute this day, we're going to be at the markets on this day, and we're going to be at Zappos on this day. You guys do whatever you want in between.
Well, we did do that, but we organized the travel and we organized the accommodation. So everyone stayed together.
That's important. Yeah.
And so it's like that togetherness. And look, I had team supporting it. So I don't want to misrepresent this. I had other people who did a lot of that stuff.
I was going to say, I can't picture you on the internet booking everyone's stuff.
No. So again, I just want to be giving credit where it's due. But even though I was not that person, it was still a lot of work. And I think the thing as well, we will do it again, but probably not for a year or two. And then I think we might go back to the States, but I think we're thinking about the UK next.
Okay.
I want to go to Rolls-Royce.
I think any of those businesses, like I want to go to, at some stage, to Banana University.
Yep.
Where
Jesse Cole, right?
The Savannah Bananas.
Yeah.
And he has like Banana University where they teach, it's all about the showmanship, and it's about and he's inspired by Disney.
Yes. As
well. So it's that whole telling a story and showmanship and having people leave with a smile on the face and creating an experience. So there's a lot of places like that around America that I'd love to spend some time at some stage. So, I might plan something.
Okay. Well, if you plan something, can I come?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I wouldn't take 26 people. That'd be really difficult. Maybe half a dozen would be fun.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's when you can do your next podiatry reboot, mate. Just do it on tour.
Anyway. Okay, Jesse, I want to thank you for coming back on the Podiatry Legends podcast. And thing is, we talk all the time anyway, so it's you're not a stranger to me. But I'm glad I got you on here to talk about your experience, your trip in America, your biggest takeaways from it, And I'm sure everybody got something from this episode.
Oh, look, thanks again for having me, mate. It's always good to catch up. It's always good to record a podcast. And, mate, thanks for all the work you do for the podiatry profession, and keep on, mate.
Yep. Okay. And I'll talk to you again very soon. I'll
No
talk to you.
doubt.
Okay. See you. Bye.
See you, mate. Bye.